Chapter 6. A Question of Trust.
Dace took a small, round cylinder from her armour and held it under the letter as it suddenly began to burn. She placed it on the ground as Pennet and Soria stood next to her watching it burn while saying nothing. After a few moments of silence, Pennet said,
"Do you believe the words written in this letter are true?"
The letter was delivered to me by Blink. She claims that Samart came to her father and asked him to get a letter to me.
Soria said,
I guess I will be the one to ask the obvious question that none of us want to ask. What do we really know about Blink? Can she be trusted?
The colonies all have the same report of Blink. She spends her days travelling the wall, bringing food to the older geos and serving our people,
said Pennet. Soria, willing to set aside feelings for the sake of answers, added,
I too have heard nothing but stories of generosity and kindness about her, but her selfless nature and generosity do not fit in a place like this. I will admit that she has a way about her, but her kindness and generosity toward our people does not make sense. She could live within the wall where she has clean water, food, and the comforts of a citizen of the city, but she chooses to put herself in harm's way to be among our people. As magnanimous as that appears, under the circumstances I believe it warrants scrutiny.
Pennet added,
So you believe she may be part of a plot by the council to test us?
No, sister. I am not saying I believe that. I am saying it is possible, and under the circumstances, we should consider every possible reason why Deus would receive this message through her.
Enough,
said Deus.
Sisters, I know you both to be fearless and true. Your life speaks the truth about you through your actions. One act of honour does not make an honourable person, but a lifetime of honourable action does. If anyone were to question your honour or accuse either of you of working with the humans to harm the geocolonies, I would hold them responsible. Blink has been seen travelling the colonies, giving to our people for years. Her actions have judged her and found her honourable. Until such time as her action prove otherwise, we will not speak of her as a spy.
But that is what I am,
said Blink, who had gone unnoticed as she stood at the door of the tent. Deus, Pennet, and Soria turned to see Blink. Pennet looked disappointed as she realised that Blink had heard her comments.
How did you get in here?
Asked Deus.
This was not a conversation intended for your ears.
But the words are true. I am a spy.
What are you talking about, Blink?
Asked Deus, looking confused.
I travel in and out of the city without the knowledge of the council. I speak to your people and to the wall citizens each day, and I hear both sides of the conversations that are held by both humans and geos. When I chose to bring a message from Samark outside of the wall and give it to you, I became a spy. The council would exile me and my family for this. By any definition you choose, I am now a spy. As protectors of the city, each of you are bound by duty to detain me and contact the council, but you won't. I know you won't because in your heart, each of you already knows that the words in the letter are true.
Pennet looked up from her feet, where she was attempting to avoid eye contact with Blink after being heard questioning her actions. As she looked at Soria to gauge how she might respond to Blink, Soria said,
The words explain much about our people's misfortune. The breathing sickness does seem to create a benefit for the council that allows them the benefit of our servitude.
Deus added,
Blink, I want the name of the geoguard who allowed you into the courtyard without permission. By doing so, he has allowed you to hear a conversation which was meant only for the wall commanders.
Sister, the child has been allowed to bribe her way into this courtyard and into all of our ranks for many years. Perhaps we bear some responsibility for this. The Geo soldiers know we give her special treatment, and punishing one of them for something we have all allowed might send the wrong message,
said Soria.
My words are my words, and whether Blink has heard them or they are said in private, I offer no apology for questioning how a citizen of the city came into possession of a letter from the aide to the council. The question deserves an answer.
Well, I'm here now, and I will answer any questions you have, Soria. The actions of a traitor or a thief are to run and hide when they are called into question, but I am here, and I am ready to take responsibility for my actions.
I will not hold trial for this child, because she has chosen to risk bringing us a letter. I have more questions for this Samark than I do for Blink, who has proven herself loyal to our people,
said Deus. As Soria started to disagree with Deus, Blink added,
Please, friends, allow me to give a full explanation to any questions I have raised by involving myself in this matter. Soraya, you are a brave and honorable Geo who wants to protect your people. I do not hold your suspicion of me against you. You are right to have questions, and while Deus has always shown me kindness and given me her trust, this situation deserves more than blind trust. I will sit here and answer any question that I have the answer to until everyone in this room is satisfied that I mean no harm to your people. Deus, thank you for your trust, but please, allow me to offer some peace of mind to Soraya and Pennet. No one has accused me of anything. My actions are simply being called into question. Allow me to answer those questions.
Deus studied Blink and reluctantly agreed as Soria began.
Blink, it is true that you have a reputation as a helper and a good heart among my people, and for that reason I prefer to get the answer we need here rather than other means.
Deus, looking furious, said,
Do not threaten this child with violence, Soraya. She is not a soldier. She is a citizen of the city, and as such we are bound by duty to protect her.
Blink placed her hand on Deus's arm, who was now standing next to her, as if she was ready to fight for her.
Deus, please. Soraya means well. I do not fear the threat of violence because I have no secrets. Please allow her to continue.
Soria added,
Sister, I never wish to anger you, and I know that this child holds a special place with you, but that is why it needs to be me that questions her. Our duty to the city is greater than our feelings toward this one human.
Deus slowly stepped back, still looking at Soria, to remind her that there were limits to what she would allow in her interrogation of Blink. Blink stopped Soria before she could talk and said,
Soraya, perhaps if I tell you everything I know about this letter, we can avoid the need for tension. Afterward, you can decide whether to have me drawn and quartered or fed to the wolves.
Soria looked on unamused as she waited for Blink to begin.
My father works in the science and research labs within the city. He is the head of the research team that is responsible for the drug that treats the breathing disease. When he was younger, long before I was born, he was given the job of overseeing the process of creating and distributing CB to the geocolonies in the food. At the time, he believed he was helping your people to be treated without waiting for injections week after week. He believed that the medical researchers would eventually find a cure for the breathing disease, and he believed that Geos would simply stop taking CB. What my father was not aware of at the time was that the council had altered the drug designed to treat Geos and caused it to be addictive. For many years, my father was silent, knowing that even a whisper of resistance to the council's plan could result in exile to the wastelands. That was until Samark approached him and shared his suspicions about the council's plan to enslave your people with the drug. Over the years, they have become close friends and have even gained the support of a small group of other researchers in the hope of finding a cure for your people. The work is slow and has to be done in secret, so they are not discovered. This had been going on for some time, but when Samark learned that the council had plans to replace the Geo army with human work supervisors to manage the work of the colonies, he knew they were out of time. When Samark told my father about the plans by the council, they created a plan to do what little they could to get a warning to you. My father knows that I spend much of my time outside of the wall, and while he does not like the risk I take, he too shares a concern for your people, so he allows me to do what I think is right.
Soria interrupted.
While we are on the topic, how exactly are you getting outside of the wall? The only way through is the main entrance, which has not been opened since the Caleb War. How do we know you aren't being given access to and from the city by the council to test our loyalty? For all we know, if we don't report you to the council as a traitor to the city, we could find ourselves answering for our own betrayal of our duties.
First of all, Soraya, the council fears even one wall commander, much less 3. They built this wall and placed you on this side of it because they fear the power you have. The council is made up of greedy, cowardly old men.
Blink! You will not speak of the council that way in my presence. Until we have proof that they are acting dishonorably, they will be treated with respect. Do you understand?
Yes, Deus, I understand. Forgive me, but I see what happens on both sides of the wall. The truth is hidden from both humans and geos, and the narrative is altered to serve the council. Your people are enslaved to a drug created within the city you protect, and the citizens of that city are told that your people are strong and thriving along the wall's perimeter as you joyfully provide security and resources as a show of gratitude and service to the city. I walk the perimeter of the city each day and see sickness, hunger, and suffering as your people wait for the city to rescue them by finding the solutions to all the problems we face. They can't see that the council has all the solutions they need. They have your people to serve them, and the humans do the same. Everyone believes they are in a joint effort to save the world, but the situation is becoming worse as the council enjoys the best foods, cleanest water, medical treatment, and housing of all the city's residents. The respect you show the council is misplaced, Deus. The letter from Samark should make that clear.
Soria interrupted.
The letter from Samark is just words on a paper. We have never seen this Samark, nor have we heard of him. Do you expect us to abandon our duties and make enemies of the council based on the words of a name on a page?
Deus looked on, knowing that Soria was very smart and could easily walk Blink into a question she couldn't answer. Pennet remained silent, knowing that this situation could become very serious for Blink, but hoping she could offer Soraya some reason to believe her.
Soria, when I agreed to answer your questions, it was because you made a good case. You said that, while you did not necessarily believe that I was a spy, you believed that the facts suggesting it was possible deserved to be addressed. As I stood in the doorway listening, I understood that to mean you were not saying I was a spy, but you were willing to look at the facts with an open mind and question them to find the truth, even if the truth was ugly and not what you wanted to hear. Is that right?
Soria studied Blink for a moment and replied,
I see your point, little friend. You are right.
Tenet broke her silence and said,
Sorry, sister, but what point do you see? Did I miss something?
Deus interrupted.
I didn't. The child is right. If we are willing to call her honour into question, for even the chance that she's acting dishonourably, we must also call the council into question. There appears to be 3 witnesses that agree to the same account of misconduct by the council. We are questioning Blink's honour without a witness to her misconduct.
It appears our little friend has used my own words to judge me. Forgive me, Blink. It appears I was more willing to accuse you than to accept the message you bring,
said Soria.
You don't need my forgiveness, Soria. The city sleeps under the protection of the wall commanders who are tasked with identifying threats to its citizens. I cannot be angry about your suspicion. Just as I love the way Deus always protects me when I probably deserve scolding, I also love your fire and the fearless way you defend the city and your people. I'm not offended by your questions, and I am thankful that you allow me to answer for my action to you rather than the council, who would not be as forgiving of my methods.
Tenet added,
What about me? You don't love me.
Blink smiled and put her finger to her lips.
I was trying not to let Deus and Soraya know that you're my favorite wall commander. I love you the most.
Tenet showed a suspicious smile as Deus added,
Blink, you can pretend I'm not your favourite wall commander later. Right now we have a serious issue to address, and like it or not, you have involved yourself in this now. We need more information about this Samark and your father before we can discuss something as serious as being betrayed by the council. You are right, though. There is too much here to ignore. We need to ask some hard questions, but we need to do it carefully. If even the suspicion of the wall commanders questioning the council loyalty was to reach the troops or the city, the fallout would lead to a dark place for everyone.
My father and I have talked at length about the council and what happens around the city. I may be able to answer many of the questions you'd have me ask him. If not, I will get the answers you need.
Deus said,
Blink, no more written notes or letters. If you are discovered, there'll be no way to deny your part in this or anyone named in a letter.
I don't know what good notes and letters will do, sisters. Our people are at the mercy of the council if what Blink says is true. They can't live without CB, and even if we discover that the council is attempting to remove the army and further burden our people, we have no way to stop them,
said Pennet. Soria said,
If the council knows the geos need the drug to treat the breathing disease, why concern themselves with it being addictive or not? Not taking it would result in death. It makes no sense that the council would make a drug addictive if the council knew geos would die if they don't take it. Little friend, your father must be mistaken.
Tunnet and Deus stood watching the exchange to see how Blink would explain the flaw in her claim. Blink said,
Soraya, you are right. The council would not make CB addictive if geos already needed to take it.
Soria said,
Then you see the flaw in your logic. The council has no reason to do what you claim they are doing.
No, Soria, I do not see a flaw in my logic. I see a flaw in your perspective. The council made CB addictive because they knew it would cure the breathing sickness. Scientists within the wall are forbidden to research CB. My father's team did so anyway and at great risk. They discovered that CB, which was originally created to treat geos, had the ability to heal them over the course of a few weeks. The cure was not created at the request of the council. It was created many years ago by doctors who were hoping to save geos once they learned that the colonies were getting sick suddenly and without explanation. They succeeded, but the council took their research and had their own scientist change it to be addictive. The scientists who created the cure were accused of creating medications to harm the city and exiled to the wastelands along with their families. The sickness can be cured, but the air you breathe just brings the sickness back as soon as a geo stops treating it. Geos need the city to provide a treatment, and whether it is addictive or not, they need it. What the council is not telling you is that until your people became addicted to their drug, they could be cured simply by leaving the wall where the air is contaminated with the sickness they created. That is no longer an option since not taking their drug is as deadly as the breathing disease they created it to treat.
Deus interrupted,
Blink, you're saying that the council took a cure for the breathing sickness and turned it into a weapon. Do you understand the gravity of your accusation?
Deus, I do, and there is more. The breathing sickness was not an accident. It was a result of the council testing chemicals designed to wipe out your people if they ever presented a threat to the city. The geos were growing more powerful as their numbers increased, and the council needed to find a way to weaken them while allowing them to live and continue providing material and resources for the city. The breathing sickness was a test that didn't go as planned. The geos got sick because the air was poisoned in every colony. It was not what the council planned, but it had the same outcome they were hoping to achieve. Your people were weaker and required help that could only be provided by the city. The doctors saw the disease and immediately began searching for a cure. They found one, told the council, and were exiled while the council changed their cure to be addictive. While it cured the sickness, it made your people slaves.
Tunnet stood quietly in the corner, gripping the handle of the blade she carried. Deus became quiet and just stared at Blink as Soraya said,
How do we speak to your father and this Samark? I demand an audience with them at once. If I judge their words to be true, we will lay waste to this city and everyone who lives within its walls for what they have done to my people.
Deus, who always kept a cool head when it mattered, said,
Your frustration is just, sister, but we have nothing but speculation and rumours. I believe Blink means well and reports to us what she believes to be truth, but we must be careful not to allow our emotions to surpass our better judgment. If the council has betrayed our people, they will be held accountable, but we will not wage a war on a city filled with humans. Some have gone to great lengths and taken great risks to help our people if this is true. We will need to be more informed before we lash out in anger.
Blink added,
My family is within the walls of the city. They love your people as do many of the humans who see your people as their shield against the rebels. Their lives must be considered before attacking the city. The drug you take is still a chain that the council can use to control you. It is as deadly to stop taking CB as it is not to take it and catch the breathing sickness.
Tunnet asked,
Blink, how do we meet with your father and Samark? We must speak to them and determine for ourselves that their claims are true.
Tenet, you cannot enter the city. The wall detects your DNA and will alert the council of any geo attempt to enter the city. They created the system after the Caleb War to prevent geos from one day sneaking into the city to overthrow it.
Why would geos attempt to overthrow the city Blink? We are the protectors of the city, not the enemy.
asked Soria.
Soraya, You were just discussing the complete annihilation of the city in your last breath. The council knew that one day your people would learn of their deception, and they took actions to protect the city from an attack from Geos. They learned a lot from the Caleb War. It's no accident that your people are required to live outside of the walls. It really is to protect the city, but not from rebels. The wall protects the city from Geos too. Why do you think Geos are not allowed to have contact with the council?
Tanette said,
Geos have always been told that the council does not meet with us in person because they want the citizens to see a clear chain of command that avoids political gain or favoritism.
That may sound good, but the truth is that they fear the Geos and know that if they learned of the council's betrayal, the first thing Geos would do is request a meeting and destroy them. As a result, your people get instructions from the wall commanders who get them from the chief wall commander. She and she alone speaks to the Omni who gets her messages from the council's aid,
said Blink. Soria said,
That is quite a maze of channels to go through now that you pointed out, Blink. It's definitely not the most efficient way to communicate, but I have never really given it real thought.
Deus asked,
Blink, if you know all these things, why are you just telling us? You have been under our feet and in our camps for years.
Deus, until Samark came to my father with a letter to give you. I knew you would see anything I said as mindless conspiracy. It wasn't until Samark told my father that the council was attempting to stand by as your people died to thin out your numbers that I decided I had to say something. I agreed to take a letter to you and tell you what I know and what my father and Samark believe to be true. If I had attempted to tell you any of this without Samark's letter, you would have silenced me and warned me not to speak against the council.
Deus was silent for a moment and said,
You are not wrong, Blink. I have been quick to silence anyone who speaks against the council. Perhaps you were smart to wait until you had more than negative comments to bring me. What you have presented here requires much thought and careful planning before we say or do anything.
Soria said,
I agree. My first instinct is to drag someone into the courtyard and beat answers out of them. But as always, sister, your wisdom should be our guide in this matter.
Tenet, this complicates the matter of filling the position of the Eastern War Commander. The Geo who takes that position will need to be someone we trust to conceal what we have learned today. I need more time before we fill that spot. Soraya, I will postpone my meeting with your Geo until I have a better understanding of what we're doing here,
said Deus, looking focused.
Beginning today, we will not report injured Geos when we go on scavenger missions. We will conceal our losses in order to continue receiving rations for Geos who are killed or injured. We need to stockpile as much food and medication as possible in the event that we are forced to defy the council. Their first plan will be to cut off our food and medicine until we comply, and we need to be prepared for that.
Sister, we will do as you command, but you sound as if you are preparing for war,
said Panette.
We may very well be, sister. Blink, if we cannot sneak into the city with you undetected, we cannot risk being discovered. Can your father meet with us outside of the wall using your method to leave the city?
Asked Soria.
My father is watched closely by the council. They have eyes and ears within the facility where he works, and his home is monitored for what the council claims is his own security. The truth is, they know he holds information that could harm their cause if it were in the wrong hands. He would not be able to leave the city without someone knowing. I can only offer to convey messages to and from him. I cannot ask him to risk his life and any chance of helping your people to meet you in person.
I suppose this Samark is watched even more closely than your father,
said Panette. Blink said,
Yes. He visits my father, and they have been friends for many years, but they are careful about when and how they discuss these things. One mistake and the price would be heavy on them and their families, including me.
So we have no choice but to place our trust in you?
Said Soria.
You say that like it's a bad thing, Soria? Have I ever failed you?
No, little friend. You have not, but then again, we have never had to rely on you to be our spy.
Well, it looks like I will have an opportunity to earn that trust too. I will convey any message you need me to. My loyalty is with your people and with the humans who care for your future as I do. I am here to help in any way I can.
Tanette said,
Deus, perhaps we should seek the Council of the Omni. Wouldn't she know what to do?
Sister, I only receive a message from the Omni when the Council has orders for our people. I have never seen her or spoken directly to her. I do not know how I would speak to her if I wanted to.
Soraya added,
Given the information Blink is giving us, how do we know the Omni is the one giving us instructions?
The room was silent for several seconds before Deus said,
We have much to consider, sisters, but we know Samark is the aid to the council, and we also know our little friend is telling the truth.
How do we know these things for certain, sister?
asked Pennett.
Because we received the message that Samark told us we would receive when we returned from the mission today. If he were not the aid to the council, he would not have known we would get that message.
I agree,
said Soria.